they want lower taxes. They're okay with lower. Why can't we look and say, listen, you know what? Here's what we're going to have to cut every department 10%. We're going to get to this number without having to rob Peter to pay Paul, mark something up to mark it down, because that's all we're going to do. If we do, like you said, a fire assessment fee, if we do the raise the millage rate, the people will be paying the same amount. Actually, the people, like you said, the only people that gets off of this is the people whose houses will be valued at less than, what, $75,000 then?
It's that couple thousand homes.
And that's why I said the first thing we need to determine is a level of service. That's the first thing we need to determine is a level of service. Set the level of service, and then that comes with a price tag. And then how we come up with that money, whether it's by cutting out certain other programs or reducing certain services, we just need to set a level of service across the board, all departments, and then figure out what it's going to cost us to do business.
All right. Okay, we're getting a little bogged down in our budget talk, but go ahead, Heidi.
Thank you. For the future budget things, Mr. Klinger, if Mr. Klinger could provide, please, the number of the homesteaded homes in Deltona, how many low-income seniors and how many veterans and people that receive full compensation, just to obviously not now.
And bump it up $75,000.
Yeah, you know what I mean, so that we could, and then what's now and what would be anticipated if the extra 25,000, so we can actually have a grasp. And then every year, I know you're really good about doing an average tax rate, and I apologize, I'm not sure if that's in here, what the average, resident is paying in taxes. But when you really start looking at what was last year's average for the city of Deltona?
It's not the average, what the average resident is paying.
No, the homesteaded property.
No, it's what the household is paying.
In here,
that's
you
not
mean?
per citizen, that's per household.
Right, no, I'm talking about when you're looking at property tax for the
Right.
parcels that we have in the city.
Right.
Basically, whenever I look properties up, the basic older Deltona home with a homestead is paying under $200 a year in property taxes. The other homes, depending on when they were sold and the value, your average property tax per parcel last year was what? $275, $300, something like that. But you don't have to answer now. I would like to have that breakdown for our future budget workshop. And you always do that anyway, but I'm requesting that because I don't think a lot of times the residents, they see their $2,000 property tax bill, and when you really look at what you're paying to the actual city, that the city gets in revenue, I'd like to have that as a breakdown for that. And fire assessment fee, I mean, I don't have a problem with looking into that, definitely not, because it's every end user, but it's also what we can do from a legal standpoint. What we can put on an ad valorem is on the tax bill is there's limitations, correct, the attorney? And we have to stay within that, and also to really realistically look at replacing the fire services with fire services fee. I think people are going to flip when they find out what that would be. And I don't have a problem with looking into it at all, and I think we should have something that all users pay, a percentage of it. Would not be a bad idea, because we do, I agree, Vice Mayor, we need a level of service that we decide to do.
Because if you don't do that, then what in essence what you do is you have some of the highest users of the service pay nothing. And everybody else, rather than spreading it around to where everybody pays a little bit for the collective good, you just have a certain group that pays nothing, and they tend to be some of the bigger users.
But if you did 11 million divided by 33,000 homes, that's $333. It would be just your fire fee. And people would realize how much we pay for fire.
We are really at odds, Commissioner Suga and Vice Mayor. He's looking at a way, and you're saying it's just replacing it, but here's the point. The other bill that they tried to introduce, and we talked about that in the past, they wanted to, a counter to this in the discussion phase was everybody pays statewide, everybody pays on the first 50 or 25,000, and then give the break afterwards, the homestead break. That way everybody pay a little. The only way around it, and I think it's important, and Commissioner Bradford, if you don't mind, I want to read this because I want to get your take on it. You heard the property appraiser. I read this after he had spoke, or I would have brought it up, but I want to read it verbatim. It says, "A joint resolution proposing an amendment to Section 6, Article 7 of the creation of a new section, Article 12 of the state constitution, to increase the assessed value eligible for home exemption and to provide an effective date if the amendment is adopted." Now, in red, here's what he said. Basically, this is his words, I guess. Basically, if passed, would raise the eligible assessed value for homestead from $75,000 to $100,000, which would give the taxpayer an additional $25,000 exemption from all levies other than school district. Now, this says 75 to 100. I was in the impression it was going from 50 to 75.
Me too.
That was a handout we received this morning from Larry Bartlett. That's verbatim. So somebody needs to call Larry, property appraiser Bartlett, I guess, and ask him if that's a typo or if we're missing something. Do you have the same packet I have? It's teamwork on the front?
75 to 100.
Yep.
Isn't that what it says? Okay, that's even, I figured those numbers based on my limited amount of math skills at 75, but this in red, bold writing says 75 to 100,000. I've never heard that yet.
Yep.
I think that's an error, but you need to check on that, I guess, as soon as possible, because if that starts going out through the county, it's going to make it even worse.
The existing exemption is 50, it's not 75.
But
I'm just saying, I think it was an error.
I think you're right.
But it's what it says there, so I just want to make sure, because he talked 75, he wasn't speaking 100, but he just kept saying 25
as the maximum,
increase.
Mayor, is it the maximum? Or, because you can get a $75,000 exemption, I've seen it on the property tax office. You can get,
But that's
certain
additional.
people have to qualify, but I've seen there are people that get $75,000 exempted.
Not for the homestead.
Not for homestead, though. It's veteran services, disabled, blind. Let's not get into that, but would you find out about that, Jane, either through finance or yourself? Go ahead, Commissioner Bradford. I didn't mean to take time, but I just wanted to point that out. It was in the presentation.
Okay, and excuse my ignorance being a new commissioner here. I'm trying to figure out why we're sitting here looking at things where we can spend money, because I just did some quick math. If we expect this to pass right now, there's two items. The community center is going to be back in the budget next year. So if I take the 1,426 surplus this year minus the 1.352 million that we gonna lose in property taxes, that only leaves 74,000. Now I put back in the 425,000 for the community center. We're now $351,000 over budget already for 2018.
Right. Plus
Why are we
plus
even
$1
looking
million.
at spending money here?
We're not. Plus $1.3 million.
Well, you are,
Plus-
you get it later in this.
Yeah, I know. I'm just
Right.
saying, right now.
I mean, and I get what you're saying, but if we anticipate, we need to be, instead of saying how we're going to spend here, how are we going to protect our residents? And another thing is, and I don't know, you might have got this morning, generally property tax values don't go up 10%. Generally, I think they're an average of 3 to 6%. So did they today give an analysis of what they anticipate our property values to go up in 2018?
They did. They gave us all that information.
Good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me? We would like to welcome you to the Deltona City Hall Chambers and our Arbor Day celebration. Just to give you a breakdown of how it's going to work today before I read the proclamation, everyone has a number, 1 through 100.
Down in the weeds on this.
1 through 5, we're going to do 5 at a time. We're going to do 1 through 5. They're going to walk out the side door. You're either going to pick between a wax myrtle, a crepe myrtle, or an azalea. So you have 3 choices. When they're gone, you get down to 2 choices and then 1 choice. So, but if you have a number, you will get one of the 3. So just if you're got a low number, you have a better chance of getting what you want. So now, oh, you are set. You are set. She is selling number 1 up here for a small price. So, but that's how we're going to do that. So we can go ahead and get this party started. I'd like to read this proclamation. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this day, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska and is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas the Arbor Foundation named the city of Deltona a Tree City USA for its commitment to community forestry in 2007. This is the 10th year that the city has received this national recognition, and whereas the city recognizes that trees promote healthier communities, their leaves filtering the air we breathe by removing dust and other particles. The city also recognizes that trees moderate climate, conserve water, provide habitat for wildlife, and reduce the heat island effect caused by pavement and buildings. And whereas the city recognizes that trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper products, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and whereas the city recognizes trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, beautify our community, and wherever they are planted, trees are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, we, the mayor and the commission of the city of Deltona, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 28th, 2017, as Arbor Day in the city of Deltona, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and support all efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. Further, we urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of our community for future generations. Executed this 28th day of April 2017. I am Brian Suka. I thank you for coming, and have a wonderful Arbor Day. If we could have thank you. If we could have numbers 1 through 5 come up first, and we can get this started. There is lemonade and popcorn over here on the left. Make yourself be comfortable.
Start by comparing staffing. We're lean and mean. We are, as you can see on this chart, we are second to lowest.
Okay, numbers 6 through 10. You're welcome. Thank you for coming. Yes.
Varies. And our staffing level is only about 1.4 employees per resident compared to them. And we're at about 3.8 staffers per person, whereas you go up to DeLand Daytona and they're over 13, 14 per person.
And then DeBerry contracts 90% of their stuff, too.
Oh,
I think they only have 38 employees in the whole city.
thank you.
Yeah, but it doesn't show up here.
Okay. Average city taxes per household, again.
And now 11 through 15. 11 through 15.
Ours will get to about $361 per household.
You're welcome. You have a wonderful day. Yes, ma'am. Come on, you go right here. What's going on, man? Nice. You got your hands full.
We are still the second lowest. Not by a lot, but we are.
How you doing today? Yeah.
Get over and get this done right.
Can we also look at the city of DeBerry where they receive most of their revenue from their power plants? And that's why they're able to keep their level of service up and the millage rate for their taxable.
If we could have 16 through 20. 16 through 20. 300. What number you got? See, it doesn't look that bad. Doesn't look that bad now, does it?
This is, to me, is a
Yes, ma'am.
statistic. The way you read this is for every resident in the city of Deltona, we have almost 22,000 in taxable value. For every resident in New Smyrna Beach, they have 130,000 in taxable value. Now, the need for police, the need for fire, the need for parks, if you were to do a similar comparison, I think you'd find that
numbers 21 through 25.
Our taxable value.
First of all, the commercial,
How you doing today? Yes, ma'am.
one driving factor, and second,
But is New Smyrna 80/20 as well?
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Commercial, they are, the residential, the commercial, they're 80/20, and we're like 90/10.
yeah, that could be, but they're residential. Based on their numbers, must be a lot higher value than ours. But you got medium homes, all the city homes, right? I mean,
My other point is, understand that the city, what I said before, was devalued 60% over 3 years. You know, no other city, and please correct me.
I know this one. I have a couple of these in my yard. You can make them like a freaking tree.
3 years in a row. Did that degree, I mean, they were 20%, 21%, and 18%.
(26 through 30). (26 through 30). See, we should keep them as big as you want them to. 31 through 35. How you doing? How's it going?
Mr. Cleo, could you really explain this chart again? Because
How we doing today? You too, man.
this is calculated. Thank you.
35 through 40. 35 through 40. Don't forget, there's lemonade and popcorn over on the table. Did I miss something? What are you going with, bro? What are you going? What are you going with?
I don't know. I was thinking making it great first.
Yeah.
I'm part of this, bro.
You get this pretty well. I got a couple in my yard right now, probably 20, 30 feet. I'm sorry.
People are saying, you just said it just now.
But those are probably the most popular. Yeah. Depending on what number you got, I don't know what you want. You know what you get.
I don't either. I was looking at it, but I mean, I have an area that's mostly shaded in the back. There's nothing there. So that would go actually for the well. There's actually around the parking.
Oh, sure. See, you know more than that.
Well, I just read what's on there. But I don't really know. I got some big trees.
I would assume just like everything, you can just keep them down if you need to. Let's go 41 through 50. 41 through 50. Thank you for coming. You guys have a good one.
That one's that one, but that one, I was reading on that, and they're going like, this one needs full sun, and that one needs like shade and stuff too, so.
You just can't with the house income levels that we get in
You said they both grow pretty comfy? No, this one.
What number are you? What's mortgage? Hope, like I said, I think we got 100 feet. So you just got to hope that 100 people will service.
Want that one, but a lot of people are like, oh, I like Azalea.
It says red. It says dark fuchsia for red.
Azaleas are lavender.
Pretty good. You know that you ever been down Deltona Run and made the left cabin with a house with there? You must have hundreds of those things. Okay, 51 through 60. 51 through 60. I would think it has, it's a myrtle, I would think it has flowers, but it doesn't say it. Like these have the red. This one doesn't say so. I don't know. That's what I said. I tried to help someone to Google it, but. What? How we doing today? Yes. Let's go with number 61 through 70. 61 through 70.
Excuse me, sir. Just to save time.
No, you gotta go out there. Those are for display only. Yeah, those are display. You can have all you want out there. Those are mine. I got gifts on you.
How'd you go in there, didn't you?
There are changes that can be made, and we may not even have the luxury of being able to do it. If these things pass, we may be first to do it. So we need to look at that.
And we're complaining about the fields.
Like I said earlier, we have resources in the city and government.
You are? Oh.
Matter of fact, you should go up to the evening. You're doing a great job, Commissioner. These guys are a bit better work. So ain't no special deal going on.
No.
Everybody coming up.
They were like, hey, can we just take these? I'm like, no.
Property taxes.
These are for display only. Okay.
We're going to get, and where we're going to put what we're going to get.
I forgot what. I think I'm at 71 to 80.
Yeah, no, that's why I should go up to at least 100.
71 to 80. 71 to 80. Grant writer, and we decided to hire a firm, right? Have we gotten anything out of that firm this year? And I'm not talking grant match. I'm talking a grant that we wrote that we received money from.
Chris, can you answer that question?
She's contract, though, she's not in-house, right?
But we're supposed to be contracting, so
Okay.
what have we got anything from a contract grant writer?
We had the grant writer, which is the Guardian Group out of Dade City, Florida, look at three main areas. One is the ECHO grant. The contract had already been let for the community center, so you can't go back and retroactive the ECHO grant for that. As Commissioner Hertzberg mentioned, you can look at using the ECHO grant in next year's cycle to enhance that building in some way, and that is certainly there. We had the grant writer look at commercial sewer at Finland and Saxon, and they gave us a small write-up of the different sources that we could chase, and they also made contact with our lobbyist in Tallahassee about potential funding sources for that. Very competitive. And I provided that to Ms. Shang, who can send that out to you. That write-up, just got it last week, so we can show you what they found as far as commercial sewer. The third is trails, and we just opened up the trail at Lakeshore Loop, and we used very little city-funded, grant-funded money for that because we did it with a partnership with the TPO and the DOT. So they're going to look at two segments of the Providence Trail because we already have a feasibility study with the TPO, and Matt's already spoken that we cannot put the Providence Trail across its entire length of Providence Boulevard because there are utility conflicts and we can't conflict with that.
So the answer is 0.
Right, we have,
Okay.
well, we have the grant writer has identified sources. If we want to fund commercial sewer, they will produce, they will pursue commercial sewer funding out in Finland and Saxon.
And I guess I can't speak for. We haven't done any. We're about to go 80s right now. Writing grants to get money for parks, getting bulletproof vests for the fire department. I mean, the police department, getting stuff for the fire department. I mean, just writing grants and working for us. Not just the large ticket items. And that's why I don't understand the people that should, we said identify revenue sources. It says right here. We can go ahead and do 81 to 90. 81 to 90. And we're not.
There are two components of grant writing. It's not just merely sitting at your desk and
Get out of the way.
There's grant compliance and then there's grant writing, and you have to be strategic in how you do it.
What's up, Brad?
We get $125,000, we thought it was going to be a
Same thing.
50 match from DOT, and actually it's going to turn out to be
You off today?
$125,000 in reimbursement. Right away from this, we did in-house. We did that before the grant writer was officially on board. We're also receiving all the beautification out at our interchanges courtesy of DOT as well. So, and that was done without grant
Chris,
writing.
come on, you're getting lost in the woods here. Moral of the story is, we're sitting here a year ago saying we want a grant writer. We decided to hire a firm. You're coming in front of me today saying, you give me a lot of excuses. That's all I hear is excuses. What do you say, Al? But you have to give me one project here that they got. Well, 0.
It isn't so merely just writing your
And I'm in Orlando today too, so very positive.
You can say that you
Very positive.
because
I'm going out to Claremont.
effectively in-house this as well also and not pay them. Now, they're on a task authorization basis, and it's $1,500 for identifying sources out there after the Beecham and Saxon.
I think that's what they did, So
Can I ask you a little bit about the azalea? Is it more of a shade tree or a flower?
they like a little shade, but they have beautiful flowers. I mean, beautiful.
If you give it full sun,
$1,500 for the
which does good in full sun?
The crepe myrtle. Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm just smacking people.
Our soil's all sand in Deltona.
Yeah.
I planted a crepe myrtle out front, but it's only grown for the last 3 years.
Once they, I don't even really water mine, and they take off so a lot. Once you get them in,
It's by the septic field. It's
oh, then that should go crazy.
It's not.
And you just say, well, they can do it. Why can't we? We still apparently don't know how to do it. So, like you said, yeah, I would think you put something on there and 91 through 100, 91 through 100.
Well, if you get a grant writer that's going to just jump around from department to department to department, then I respectfully say you get a much larger firm to do that, because most grant writing firms are small, but if you got, say, several, and then some focus on public safety grants, and then some focus on parks grants, and some focus on public works grants, because you end up, sort of a diffuse effort. And then they're just chasing, without a focus, 15 to 20 different sources, and they just sit and write grant after grant, and they compete whether they can, and if they can't, then it just falls away, and then they have a success ratio.
Mr. Bowley, respectfully, I think what Commissioner Sukup is trying to say is, this is an issue. Do we fund the grant writer anymore? Do we do in-house one?
Is 96 around here? Oh, there you go.
That's bottom line. We spent 10,000, what do we get for the 10,000? And the answer simply zero. We didn't do anything yet. Right. But that's, I think, basically what you're asking. But, I mean, we're not,
I'm not a team illusion fan because I ain't seen nothing. He's got to put money in. Same thing.
Really, respectfully, you can make that choice. If you don't want to go forward, then you don't have to.
Can I ask a question on that?
I'm giving you the floor next.
I'm good right now. Thanks.
You're looking at a grant writer that goes out and tries to find the grants, writes and stuff.
You wanna get in?
He's a grant administrator.
Oh, get in there. Oh, now I got to leave your phone. We're on 101.
How far do you wait?
CDBG ship and for HUD, NSP as well.
Ready?
You have a grants
Everybody
compliance
say
team
cheese.
in-house in the community development
Because
center.
it's not only going out and getting the grant, it's managing the grant as well. And that's the second aspect of it. And from what I see, because I agree with Brian initially,
I need to let them know? Announce it?
We're just telling them. I'm working on it.
Excuse me.
even if it was 5,000, 10,000,
Just want to let you know we've run out of crepe myrtles.
for the larger dollar amount grants where you've gone ahead and focused
Sorry.
retrieving bigger return on investment, correct?
Why was that funny?
Or if you're looking at an echo grant and so forth, then I don't consider, I would be for trying it for another year simply because without a proper grant
We're
writer,
starting at the very top
we're
now.
not going to get an echo grant for
101,
anything if we don't do that properly. There's just no way. The competition is stiff, and we have to have projects that are ready to go for a lot of these grants. And so to me, you run in a complete circle. If we don't have the money to get something set up to ready to go, you're not going to get a grant for a lot of it. I mean, you have to have sometimes a grant match as well, correct?
Correct.
So what I can see is what you guys focused on instead of small grants of 10, 20, 30,000, you focused on bigger grants. What do you think realistically we can look at? Is there a success that we can possibly look at in year 2 for grant writing? Like with ECHO or anything like that? I mean, I know that we can't guarantee anything, I'm not saying that for sure, but has the groundwork been laid enough that if the funding is out there, we get a shot?
Can we get 101 to 110?
50%, maybe 65% of the data we need.
Yes, 101 to 110. What you say? Yeah. Yeah, my mom gave it to me way back.
I think for, some of the small grants, I think there will be success with the Providence Trail. I'm fairly confident in that because the TPO did help us fund the feasibility study for the entire segment. And I think they're going to realize also that performing the entire segment is a really long length. So the grant will probably be pretty successful for those two segments. And I think those are really the two biggest. Now, we could get a county TIP grant for Normandy, because Normandy is falling down between Saxon and Furwood, was done under a TIP grant. We can consider something like that, which would be from Furwood up to Graves, which has been talked about before. So we can look at that. But chasing it for a Tiger grant, which is a much larger grant that went from Maryland all the way down to DeBerry, was not feasible. We tried, we wrote the grant, and it failed.
I think what Commissioner Sukup is getting at is kind of like something that I'm thinking about when we talk about a grant writer. We have, the sheriff has talked about a PALS program for Deltona as an example. It doesn't sound to me like staff, department heads
I guess when we run
are
out.
submitting projects to the grant writer to get funding, let's say a PEDALS program. I know when I was in the fire department, I would come across all kinds of grants from the U.S. Fire Administration. And the fire department at that time wrote its own grant applications to try and get those programs here in the city. You're talking about roads and infrastructure type of grants. I think what Commissioner Sukup is talking about, where's the guy from Parks and Rec that's writing a grant to try and fund an after-school basketball program? That's the kind of grants I think that we're talking about.
That you're looking for.
I think they should be staff driven. I think Mr. Moore should be going, okay, what programs am I hearing from the community that we're collecting and providing? And is there a grant out there from
No, we're not up
J.C.
there.
Penney or from, Nike or
We, 111 to 120.
that could provide some kind of an after-school recreation program to maybe for the Boys and Girls Club to administer for us because we don't have the staff to run any kind of after-school program, but you have the YMCA and you've got the Boys and Girls Club that we could partner with for these kind of grants. I think that's kind of what
We're low income, we're very diverse. I would think we qualify for everything. So
Ma'am?
that's exactly what I'm saying.
We're at
One last thing, and I understand I'd like to stay for her comments.
117, please.
Also have to decide what we want to see done to get the grant writer to go look for grants for that project. And staff's got to bring things to the manager. Manager says, yeah, that's something the commission's talked about. It's that simple. I mean, I'm saying I don't think we want staff going to the grant writer, but go to the manager. Let the manager then decide, is there money in the budget? Does the commission support this? And then get on it. But I see, bottom line is, whatever the total is, and I know it's coming up, so you might as well get ready for it. The total we spent on the grant this year and what we've seen. And if it's zero, it's zero. We live with it, but then we'll make a decision next year. City manager and Commissioner Sukup's got to leave.
Yeah, I was going to comment that we can look at our approach. I think what staff was looking at is it takes a lot of work and energy to write a grant. And I think we're
We're
trying to look at
121 to 130.
now that you look at it, I mean, we're going for the bigger projects because they would have the biggest rate of return. What we can do is kind of regroup and refocus and get smaller grants.
So have a workshop, you want to have a workshop on grants? and then we can
Yeah, let's try to get through this one before we plan another one. Yeah, we need to do that.
She is right here.
Well, a good approach just from working with the grant writer, because they're from afar, so they come and go.
Hey, how you
Probably
doing?
the better thing is to have them come here and be here physically for the different department heads to come in and share what they've found, what they would like to see, like Parks, for example, a FERDAP grant. Things like that, hey, here's 5 grant sources. Tell me which ones I could go for, and them physically being here to do that, and then that would help focus what their efforts are.
Okay.
And then before I get out of here, on the second topic, because it ties into the budget for me, I hope you guys realize this is a first-year facility. The odds that I believe it will bring in $1 million are very slim. The odds that if it hits $200,000, it's a victory. So realize that's another $800,000, $200,000 that's going to cost us. And that when you build a new facility, it's every day that you see something like, oh, now we need this, now we need this. The first year is going to be a lot more expensive than $1 million. So there's no way, that's just Brian speaking. You can quote me from right here next year if I'm wrong. There's no way, if we bring in over $200,000, it'll be a win. But I got to go, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Camille, again, we'll try again.
Thank you. So now that we talked about our approach, what's next? And essentially, it's do we spend or do we invest? And what's meant by that is, well, we can spend, we can reduce our millage, we can easily do that with a simple majority. The caveat there is it can be very difficult to undo when I take a supermajority. Once it's gone, it could be gone forever. I know we've talked about some scary stuff coming up, the proposed legislation that could raise the homestead exemption and cost us a lot of money. We've also talked about what it would take to make Deltona prosperous, to make us attractive to businesses. businesses, to bring businesses in, to create jobs and give jobs to our residents, to improve quality of life, to make it happen.
Can we get 131 to 140?
Sustaining would be 7.85. The other side of the equation is, do we invest? Do we do the things that will make us more attractive and improve the quality of life and the things that we've talked about? We've talked a lot about economic development and bringing in new business, and new business brings in jobs. Do we add service capacity? We've talked about level of service throughout this workshop. Again, we've got baby boomers are retiring. Somebody's going to replace them. How are we going to compete for the talent? We have some reserves, and the reasons for that is because we want to be able to match grants if they become available. We want to be able to pounce on them if the opportunities present themselves. We want to be able to do things to bring businesses in, to make Deltona a community of choice, to make this a place that people want to be, and not simply here because it's inexpensive, because the housing is affordable, but because it's a beautiful city, it's a great place, it's self-sustaining, there's great places to shop, there's places to go, and there's great things to do. And then, of course, to be prepared for that rainy day, such as hopefully the day that doesn't come if that legislation passes. But that's why we have the reserves, so we want to keep maintaining those. The next slide is straight out of last year's presentation with a few small changes. You see some check marks, and those are projects that were talked about this time last year, and some of them were either completed or in progress. City Center land purchase is on hold. The stadium sports facility was not recommended. We're in progress of relocating Public Works. We've already talked about the Saxon Boulevard sewer improvements. We increased our grant match reserve. We have our CRA. We've talked again about rehabbing the existing senior center, putting in parks,
141 to 150.
The Veterans Park Museum, offering economic development incentives. Watched a presentation a couple weeks ago where we talked about certain things that we could do to attract more businesses in. Concrete plant, Deltona Plaza, storage facility, back in medical transport, we've got an agreement executed, and then Deltona North. So those were things we talked about last year. And here are some potential areas where we could place the resources that we do have in 2017-18. Revisit a lot of the things that were already discussed. City Center land purchase, Saxon Boulevard sewer, other things, gym, irrigation meters, lots of parks improvements, again, beautifying the city, making it an attractive place to live, making this where we can, a place where we can prosper and do better in the future. So, again, this is just a starting point for the discussion. There's a lot that's been talked about tonight, a lot that needs to be talked about and decided in the future. But we do appreciate your input, and if you have any other questions, anything else.
State up front that, once you get a number, you're going to get a plan. Because people thought it was
I just want to say, I do think 7.85 is sustainable.
knowing that you didn't know that you were going to get.
27,000
And then I said, well, why not
so we
do
can't
it in
afford that
order?
right now. I'm not what's going on in Tallahassee, but I do believe we can do a 7.5.
Because
So
everybody
we
said,
have one item that's coming up in May. I'd like
you know, and remember,
to discuss
cars are like, and you're not like doing like going back to 9 and then 61, and it's so chaotic, and it's all in order, you reward
That's a $5 million loan.
serve, which is a simple function.
And another
Sorry for butting in.
No, you're fine. No, that it worked beautifully.
Because everybody's happy to see how much organized it is.
dollars over the life of the loan.
And
$2
then
million.
my fire
And then we could reduce the storm water fee, which would give the residents a reduction to see $85. And that would mean then $500,000 a year
that's all right.
for projects. And they would have to, Matt would have to redo his project. But the reason I'm saying I'd like to get that on the next regular commission meeting to vote on whether we pay it off or not, because the payment is coming up in May. If we don't pay this thing off, then we've just made another $200 and some thousand payment for nothing. But we could reduce that storm water from $1 $2 million of
Evidently,
you've done some paperwork here. Did you send this information to city manager?
copy furnished her back in February. I've been doing
Yeah, Craig Murdoch's gone.
We had the most of that. We had 50 and 50, and we had 200.
I just want to thank you guys for taking the time to put this together and update us.
If it was, well, you had 200 Craig Murdoch's.
Until we know what that House bill does, I mean, I'm more concerned with having to raise residents' mileage. I mean, obviously, we can't reduce the millage. I mean, that's apparent. I don't know, something's wrong with the number.
Somebody numbers is, somebody called some plants that weren't Craig Murdoch's Craig
We
Murdoch.
know that next year, they're projecting that the state's gonna give us less money. I mean, they said, do we run that risk next year again of bringing in less revenues, did they say?
that was not mentioned at the workshop I went to.
So at this point, we're totally up in the air. I mean, on paper, we're showing surplus, but when you really do the paper, we're showing 2018, we're gonna be down $350,000. So to me, this whole discussion and meeting is kind of
That's pessimistic view I have of what's going on. Heidi,
Okay, just really quick, I think that at this point, budget-wise, and I don't know, Ms. Chang, are you looking for direction on how to budget? Are you looking for some sort of direction here? Because on what we're going to do with the millage, I know obviously we're not voting, but I know that you have to prepare a budget for a certain millage rate. Am I correct?
That is correct. I am looking for some direction in regards to the preparation of this budget. I mean, are you looking that, even though there are a lot of things that are unknown, are you asking that I prepare a budget with a millage rate of 7.85? Are you telling me that there are certain things that you want me to look at eliminating? I just need some overall general discussion so that when I prepare this budget, it has been vetted out and it's hopefully that we're on the same page. I do not want to get into a situation where the assumptions that I may make or I have the staff make is in conflict with the desires of this commission.
Okay, so understanding that, me personally, my recommendation is that, you know, the current millage rate is 7.95. As Commissioner Bradford said, it's going to be hard to go under that. I know some people want to go under that, but I also feel like we need to really look at the park CIP and really look at, I see surplus in parks. I see if we're looking at really saving money, don't do anything extra to Thornby. Don't go ahead and put the pocket park in for $120,000. I mean, there's a lot of money that you can look at and save if you want to do that and really look at that. And I cannot support at this point reducing reserves. When you look at your credit rating, when you look at what this city is, what is our current credit rating? Let me finish. What is the city's bond rating for the credit rating for the bond rating?
I believe it was AA+.
Double A, that's what I thought, double A
Yeah,
plus.
we just had a third. We had 2 upgrades and we had affirmed just recently.
it's AA+ with Fitch, but there's 3 different agencies.
Right, we're only getting rated by 2, but our credit rating is solid.
And that's my point. When you're looking at getting rated as a city, they look at not only what your debt ratio is, they look at what your reserve ratio is. And also understand that when you're looking for appropriations from the Florida legislature, from the federal government, and from the state, they're going to look at cities that have not only do they have a good credit rating if they're going to give you appropriations, they also, and I was told this personally, look at what your reserves are. That you have a solid reserve. And that if they see a city that's solid, they're more than likely to give you appropriation dollars. So, I mean, those are just my comments on that. And I really feel like before we do the park CIP and start looking at a few things and get some more budget in, it's going to be tough to really determine how much we want to lower the millage rate, if at all. I mean, I can't support lowering the millage rate right now until we see what kind of cuts are going to come in from the federal government and from the state. That said, if you want to do a budget on a 7.90 or something and throw it out there, that's one thing. I don't really support it, but she's got to have some guidelines.
Okay, I understand that, but we're getting very pessimistic, very scared over what might happen with the legislature. It's out there. We have to address that if it happens. So what we need to do is have as lean and as trim a budget with the current ad valorem rate. It's always, you can always think up projects to do, but I would say lean and mean as far as new projects. And then we'll have to determine at a later time what we cut from existing proposed projects. But I would say don't move forward in this time of massive uncertainty on what could happen. Once you check tomorrow with Mr. Bartlett about that 100 or 75,000, I mean, that makes a big difference. I'm sure it's an error, but I'm surprised nobody caught it because he's had several of these already. But yeah, we need to give Jane the instruction, and the instruction simply is as lean a budget as possible, no capital improvement, except a wish list. I would like to see what people would like to have, but we're not going to be funding them in a budget if we don't know what kind of dollars we have.
That's capital, that's not operating.
But it's still the amount of money we'll have to come.
The issue I think that the manager is asking for is, are we maintaining a status quo in terms of operating budget, or are we going to direct her to make a 2% cut, a 5% cut, a 10% cut? I think that's what she's. I think that's a direction that she's looking for tonight, and that's what I get back to my original comment about. Are we in agreement to maintain the existing level of service across the board?
If we tell her to do a 10% cut across the board, then she'd have to present a budget with that. Go ahead, Mitch.
Two things. Number one, she mentioned reserves, and that $10 million that we have right now, and soon to be 11.5, if their slide is correct, is not reserved. We have the reserves for operating expense for 3 months. We have all the reserves we're active. This is unencumbered revenue that we have done nothing with, and I've said before, if we're not going to use it, give it back to the residents. So we're not going to do that, but we can pay off that $5 million debt, save the city $2 million, and come down on the stormwater rates, number one, and still have money left over there. And if we can come down to 7.85, and they can maintain what we currently have, and we also, and again, that would still leave us $6.5 million if we paid off that loan, thereabouts. Those numbers aren't exact, but they're about $6 million. So we have money that we can transfer. We're a commission. We can transfer money out of there into the general fund if we start running into problems. So we have a chance here to be bold and to tell the residents we hear you, and we have a chance to see if we can manage that budget at 7.85, and we have money that's not reserves that we could transfer if we find during a year into the general fund. We have that power. Anyway,
All right.
7.85 is my vote.
I'm for maintaining it. What do you want to do?
Maintain.
Maintain.
Okay, moving along. Thank you all very, very much. Keep the Klinger slides coming for as long as you're here, Bob.
Thank you very
You'll have to
much.
come up with your own idea of your little tricky slides. I enjoy your slides, Bob, because they point out in a very simple way where we differ from other cities. And although sometimes there's always somebody who's got to have something to say about them, but we are unique and we are different, and that points it out very clearly to a lay person who doesn't deal with this every day, where our differences lie.
And I just add one brief little bit of editorial comment here. We throw around things like 10% cut. Keep in mind that's $3.6 million, and that half your budget is police and fire. 10% is not doable.
It was brought up previously.
I gave a range, Bob. I said 2%, 3%.
But I want to.
I did have another question for you, though, and I'm glad you came back up. In terms of franchise fees, how often do we look at those, and what is our ability to renegotiate those?
Well, I would almost defer to the city attorney on that one, but I would think, I don't know when the existing contract expires, but I would think we could always renegotiate it, I would think.
I think
that's something that staff probably needs to take a look at, because we always just talk about millage rate. We very rarely talk about the other sources of revenue, and franchise fees, well, the millage rate doesn't even generate enough money to run the fire department. So the franchise fees is a big area where revenue comes in, And I think we should at least have those numbers, have that discussion, get that information, and see if there's something that the commission wants to or can do with any of those numbers.
Let's be fair to the fire department. Ad valorem is enough to run the fire. It's just not enough to run both police and fire.
Okay, but as far as
Give them a little bit of slack on
his comment on franchise fees, I think you looked at them, I remember years ago when we instituted them, I think we were at the max. I think we did the max you're allowed to do. But you can look at it, Bob, I'm not sure.
I just want to make sure we're capturing what we can capture.
Right. That's a throwback, though, again, and I'll speak for myself, but others too. If you increase the that's going to be pushed right back on the taxpayer. So what they might save a little bit here, we might generate some revenue and be able to reduce the revenue.
Well, there was a time, Mayor, that finance came to me and we weren't capturing anything on LP gas that was sold to the city.
Right.
And so we looked at that. So I just want to take a look at all those franchise fee agreements, make sure we're capturing what we need to capture, and just let us know what some of those numbers are. Okay?
All right, let's move along now to the next item on the agenda is, do you have comments concerning the budget? Knowing we have, come on up, Mr. Pressure. We have no answers for you right now, which is just an initial discussion.
I didn't expect answers. I just want to make some comments.
Okay, your name and address, please, and use the mic. We can barely hear you.
Okay, we'll try this one. Jim Pesci, 1120 North Old Mill Drive, District 2. Comments on the general presentation that was just made. First of all, finding out about the cutback on federal spending. I'm not too surprised. We have a businessman in office, and we may be looking at leaner and meaner a little bit out of Washington for the next 4 years. We need to plan the same way here. Determine your basic line of just like you were talking about, Commissioner, and tightening our budget accordingly. One of the things I saw in the presentation was bringing in the new gymnasium. Right now we have a lot of parks. Recently I've been involved in working with the parks a little bit, and I've been noticing a lot of areas of concerns and stuff that can be brought up in our current parks. It's not a negative comment, but basically one of the things I've been noticing down at the parks is, shall we say, security. We've had some senior people down working at the gardens, and they felt a little uncomfortable being down there by themselves. The cameras issues, I'd like to push that one. As far as new parks, a lot of the parks are not currently maintained to their best standards with our current budgets. I can't see adding more to our already present burden. So we have to look at keeping our budget tight, our budget realistic. Expansion, yes, we do need businesses. Let's not turn us into an Altamont Spring where we have 10 roads, lanes of traffic coming in with bumper-to-bumper traffic. We're still a bedroom community. We have to move that way. I also saw that online that they were talking about moving the service center down there on Holland Boulevard. My concern is I don't want to see it be put into a residential neighborhood. We talked about beautification of Deltona. I like the idea. We're trying our best to help that along with our own efforts. But taking a service yard that we have down there and moving it from a commercial district next to Walmart out into a residential district may not be the best move. And before we move anything like that, I'd like to have it taken into consideration from the aesthetic standpoint for the neighborhoods. That's my comments. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Okay. Shang? We'll go to item number A.
Yes. And Chris O'Donnell will make that presentation.
Good evening. We're going to move into the new community center and proposed pricing structure as we go forward. So I want your input so we can get to selling the community center. I've had a lot of interest and we're getting to that point. So first of all, it's opening December of 2017. Community center will be 30,000 square feet. It will have a 7,500 square foot ballroom as a stage.
Well, that's kind of nice.
500 in rounds of 8.
Water
Seats up to 700 plus in theater style. Seats up to 400 with a dance floor. And it will house the new Council on Aging Senior Center. The different events that we're going to have will have sales meetings, conferences, seminars, school banquets, proms, smaller graduations. I know some of the high schools will end up having about 2,000